On January 18th, 1959, Mrs. Harrison received news about her husband, James Eugene Harrison, who had been missing since October 7th of the previous year. It were the words no person would want to hear about their loved one. James had been murdered. A Californian man named Roy Victor Olson had confessed to killing him, together with his accomplice, Leach.
I stabbed him while Leach stood by with a rock in his hand. We robbed him of $500. We took a shovel we found in his car, dug a grave, and put him in with his business cards. We filled it in, then drove up to Jacksonville and left the car. His name was Harrison.
Under further questioning, Olson added more details.
We covered the body with 2 bags of something. I think it was lime.
Olson then went on to describe in detail the wooded area where they had buried Harrison. Everything in his story seemed to check out. Harrison had indeed bought 2 bags of fertilizer just before he disappeared, and he did carry a shovel identical to the one described by Olson. Moreover, 2 fertilizer bags were found in the area Olson had described where the body would be buried. All the police needed now was a body. But the body would turn up quite differently than anyone expected. Hello, I'm Nemo, and welcome to episode 3 of season 1 of Certainly Strange. This is a strange one, I can tell you that. Surprisingly little can be found about it on the internet, which is odd because it is a really good story. I can really imagine this being a TV series or something. Really, easily. It is a very good mystery. But I really like the story, so let's just get into it. Without any further ado, let's get into the story. In Phoenix, Arizona, on the same day Leach was arrested for the murder of one James Eugene Harrison, a well-dressed, freshly shaved man stopped the car and asked the driver to take him to the police station. The driver declined, but agreed to telephone the police to come and get the man. The driver informed the police that either a robber or a lunatic was standing in his driveway. When officers arrived, they found a well-dressed man in a great state of confusion, muttering to himself,
How did I get here? How did I get here?
At the police station, the man informed the officers that his name was James Eugene Harrison. James Eugene Harrison had been a successful entrepreneur, happily married and father of 2 young kids. On October 7th, 1958, the 32-year-old had driven to Kakawa Beach, about 15 miles away, for work, but he had never come home. When he failed to return home that night, his wife immediately knew something was very wrong, and she phoned the police. Their investigation found no trace of Harrison at all, and now, months later, and suspected to be murdered by a serial killer, he was standing right in front of them. Things still didn't add up. Even though Harrison stood in front of them, alive and seemingly well, there was still so much evidence that he had been murdered. Not only Olson's detailed confession, but also Harrison's car had been found, and the front seat had been saturated with blood. Blood matching that of Harrison. The police had immediately concluded that someone, probably Harrison, had been murdered in that car. Leach, however, had a different story. There never had been any murder. Yes, he had spent a few days hitchhiking with Olson, but they had never robbed anyone, let alone murdered a man.
I have no idea why he implicated me in something that neither of us did.
As for Harrison, he was no help in solving what had happened those past months when he had gone missing. In fact, he had no idea that he had been missing and was quite surprised to find out that it was 1959 and not 1958.
Yesterday, at least I thought it was yesterday, I was driving to Kakawa Beach. When I stopped at a traffic light, a man with a gun forced his way into the back seat. This man said, "I want to go to Jacksonville. Take me there and you won't get hurt." When we arrived in Jacksonville, the gunman ordered me to pull into a parking lot. After that, the lights went out. I woke up just a little while ago. I was lying on a parkway beside a street. My clothes were dirty, and this t-shirt, it isn't mine. I never wear these. My $300 were gone. So was my watch and my Masonic ring. I found I was still wearing my wedding ring, and I had 67 cents in my pocket. I started walking. I thought I was in Jacksonville.
It is no wonder that the police were skeptical of his story. They even warned Mrs. Harrison that this man was not her real husband, but rather a fraud. However, the second she spoke with him on the phone, she screamed out in joy, "It's Jim! It's Jim!" After showing her a picture of the man, she was certain that this man really was her husband, seemingly come back from the dead. The police were absolutely puzzled. Someone had to have been murdered in that car. Did Harrison kill someone himself? Who was this person? Or did the carjacker steal Harrison's wallet and business cards, only to be mistaken for Harrison by Olsen? And what did Olsen think of all this? Well, Olsen claims that his murder confession had been merely a way to get a free trip to Florida. He still went to jail, of course, because Harrison was not the only man he had killed. Well, I mean, there was actual people that he had actually killed. As for Harrison, it appears that he had not been murdered after all. Right? Because that really was James Eugene Harrison, right? Because he did decline a lie detector test, and he did have a strange red streak in his hair that seemed to have been dyed. And then, of course, there is the skeleton. What skeleton, you might ask? Well, I did say that the only thing that they needed in evidence for the murder of Harrison was a body, right? Well, police found a skeleton of a man in the general area where Olsen claimed to have buried Harrison. Was this man the real James Eugene Harrison, or was he the one that really got murdered in that car that night? And did this man, who claimed to be the real Harrison, have anything to do with the murder? Whatever happened to James Eugene Harrison, it is certainly strange. Well, isn't this case just absolutely amazing? I mean, the potential for a Netflix original series is just, it's right there. But yeah, the murder that never was. James Eugene Harrison. What really happened? Now, if you want to know my opinion, and let's be honest, if you didn't, you would have already skipped to the next episode. I think that the man that turned up in Arizona really is the real James Eugene Harrison. I also think that the story of Olsen is real. I really think that he murdered someone, but that person wasn't Harrison. So Harrison mentions that he got robbed, like his wallet was stolen, his car was stolen. I think that the person who stole his car and his wallet, he was murdered by Olsen, and that Olsen thought that this man, that his name was Harrison because maybe he looked into his wallet and saw the ID or something. And so he murdered that man, he buried him, and Harrison just suffered memory loss from being hit in the head during the robbery. I don't really know anything about memory loss. I don't know if it is possible for someone to suffer memory loss so severely for months and like not remember anything and just like this remember everything again. That is a part that I found really shady. Like, I can get that you get memory loss, but like remembering everything like that and just thinking that that yesterday you got hit in the head, I don't know. But then again, I don't know anything about memory loss or anything medical related. Yeah. And there is also the accomplice. There's Leach, who claims that they never killed anyone. which once again really doesn't check out with the evidence. So there's blood on a car seat. There is like very detailed description of a certain shovel and fertilizer bags being used, and and of course the skeleton, like the body that they found in the area where Olsen said there would be a body. So yeah, it doesn't really add up, which makes it of course a great mystery. So I'd love to hear your opinions about it. And you can always contact me or message me on social media. Both the website and the social media are Dr. Nemo's Cabinet of Curiosities. And thank you for listening to this episode of Certainly Strange, a podcast about the unexplainable. Everything about the podcast and my other projects can be found on the website drnemoscabinetofcuriosities.com. There you can also find the transcript of this episode and also the sources I used in my research. And once again, thanks for listening.